Well, hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Keys to the Shop, where we give you insights, inspiration, and the tools you need to grow as a coffee service professional. My name is Chris DeFirio. I'm your host for the show, and I am really grateful for you being here as always. This has been almost 8 years now of Keys to the Shop, being a podcast focused on helping you learn more about what it's like to run and operate a thriving coffee shop, be a great professional, find fulfillment in the process of just working in this end of the coffee value stream, the coffee shop. That's what we love to focus on. And there's so many different examples of how coffee has a capability of doing good for the world through the good work we do in the coffee shop. And we talk about everything from roasteries to green sourcing and everything else that's related to what comes into a great coffee shop experience. And today's episode is no exception. We've got a great one today with Talitha Coffee Roasters. So I'm excited for that. So I would really love to talk to you about subscription, because subscription to the show, whether you're doing that on YouTube, which is where you can see me right now, and or you do it just on podcast players, wherever you get your podcasts, is really a great opportunity for you to stay tuned with the new episodes that come out. Also, it's great to find a place like on YouTube or your podcast player to just search the catalog of we're going to get close to 1,000 episodes pretty soon, all published episodes included there. In finding a topic that applies to where you are on your journey, because we definitely have something that relates to where you are right now in your coffee journey. So subscribe to the show if you can, and also share these episodes on social media. That really helps the show get around. Love for like every coffee shop in the world to know about Keys to the Shop, and you're very helpful in doing that. So the other thing I want to let you know about is Keys to the Shop consulting. That's one of the things I spend the most time doing these days. This came about as a result of being asked to help in a coffee shop's assessment early on when we started Keys to the Shop. At that point, I had spent well over a decade and a half in the specialty coffee world. And ever since then, we've been able to help over 80 different businesses and entrepreneurs either start a great coffee shop or make their already existing coffee shop greater, go from good to great, and really maximize their operations to benefit all the people involved. And so if you're looking for a coach or consultant to help you with a particular issue or a project for your coffee shop in 2025, we're taking on new clients, and maybe that's you. So let's have a conversation. It's going to be a free conversation. Just email chris@keystotheshop.com. You can DM me on Instagram also at Keys to the Shop, and we'll set up a time to talk. So I can't wait to have a conversation with you, and it'll be great to learn more about what's going on in your world. So today's episode is brought to you first by our friends at Ground Control at groundcontrol.com, and then also the folks over at Barista Series, that line of plant-based performance beverages, pacificfoodservice.com. We're going to talk a little bit more about those folks later in our episode today, so you get to learn where to find out more information. But for right now, let's get right to introducing our guests for the show today. We're talking with Jenny Barber, who is the co-founder of Talitha Coffee Roasters, and Jake Jiron, head of sales for Talitha. Jenny has spent the last 14 years becoming an expert in the topic of human trafficking. She herself is a survivor of childhood exploitation, and today she's the mother of 6, a college graduate, nonprofit and business leader, a tireless advocate for this topic and this issue. And she founded this company determined to make a difference, a positive difference, after witnessing firsthand the devastation and intergenerational impact of the issue. I mean, from a young age, she witnessed this. And she founded Talitha as a mission to help end human trafficking and support survivors one sip at a time. Now, the way they do this is by creating job opportunities and providing support for survivors and survivors of human trafficking, and partnering with experts as a result, and partnering with experts as a and partnering with experts as well as individuals and organizations that seek to benefit others. And so this company has been going for a bit now, and Jenny has been working in this space for a lot longer than Talitha has been around. And so this company is very effective because of the drive, the passion, the mission, and the expertise that Jenny brings to this. And it's amazing what they're able to accomplish and the good that they can do through coffee. We're also talking with the head of sales today with Jenny, Jake Jiron, who is originally from Bakersfield, California, and he started his coffee journey in 2016 after graduating San Diego State University. And he started at a farmer's market pop up and as a coordinator for a pop up at a farmer's market in coffee, and quickly moved into his role of administration, invoicing, delivery, and ultimately into sales. And today he is the head of sales for Talitha Coffee Roasters. He was really inspired by the vision for the company and knew he wanted to be part of something bigger, made a tangible difference. And of course, you can't ask for a much more mission driven company than Talitha Coffee Roasters. And so today in this conversation, we're going to be talking about the founding of the company, the history, how this whole idea of using coffee as a platform and a vehicle for change came about, the details of what it takes to grow that and run it well in respect to both how it serves the public, but also how it serves, and more importantly, how it serves those who are employed at the company, who are survivors themselves, who are developing skills that help them transition into a different world from where they came from. And so I'm excited to present this to you today. This is just a testament to the fact that coffee transcends just the transaction. It is more than just a beverage. It is something that can be used as a reinforcer and a vehicle for the things that matter most in life, in our relationships, in helping other people. And it's not just about sipping, it's about giving. And this is a great conversation talking all about that. And both Jake and Jenny today talk about the mechanics of it, the vision and the values, and how this has been a transformative company for so many, and of course, including themselves. And so I hope that you enjoy this, and let's get right to it. Here now is my conversation with Jenny Barber and Jake Jiron of Talitha Coffee Roasters. Well, Jenny, Jake, welcome to Keys to the Shop. How are you both doing today?
Doing so great. Thank you for having us.
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure. This is a fascinating story and such a great cause, with human trafficking being the point of this impact company. Been enjoying your coffee at home of late, and heard a lot of great things about the company. And of course, you know, coffee is one of those vehicles. It brings people together for a lot of things, and this is one of those things that it needs a lot of attention. And so I'm grateful for the work that you all are doing. Let's go ahead and just kind of open this up to talk about how things got started at Talitha, and then dive into the formation of the company and its growth. And so, Jenny, maybe you can start us off by talking a little bit about how coffee was sort of the vehicle that was chosen to begin this company in the first place.
Yeah, so I have been working in anti-trafficking for about 15 years now. I'm actually a C-sex survivor myself, and so I was exposed to the issue of trafficking from a really young age and experienced exploitation as a child. And what that did was it really developed in me this tenacity to not just find freedom for myself, but to see others walk into freedom as well. So, as a young adult, I jumped right into anti trafficking work with my husband. We were 19 years old and went straight in, straight into college and working in nonprofits and all of that. And so, had the opportunity to pioneer initiatives in Los Angeles and around the world as well. And so, as we were doing that work, my husband started learning to roast coffee in 2015. He started with a whirly popcorn popper on our stove top, and somebody had just told him, hey, did you know that you can roast coffee at home? And he gave it a try, and it was actually really incredible. So as he started developing that out and moving on to slightly larger machines, like a Be More on our counter and things like that, he started selling small batches of coffee to really fund the outreach and advocacy work that we were doing. So I was working with survivors on and working with victims who were actively being exploited in the red light districts around the world, but also specifically in Los Angeles, and really began to find a point where I was feeling pretty disheartened and discouraged. We had seen that the average age of entry into trafficking was 11 to 15 years old, and so with that, many of these survivors were facing what we call barriers to reentry. So they would begin to leave and go into recovery programs, and then they would face these obstacles, such as lack of work experience. Some of them hadn't been able to finish their education. Some of them had criminal records they weren't even aware of. And it really made reentry feel daunting and sometimes impossible to them. And so that's when my husband said, let's take what we bring to the table and let's make a difference. And that's when we opened up our first coffee shop in the San Fernando Valley of Los Angeles. And we realized pretty quickly that we could hire, and we would be very limited. We could hire a couple of survivors in that context. So we decided to really focus in on the roasting side of things and growing through expansion on that side.
Wow. So your experiences working in red light districts and getting to know the survivors and those in exploitation, and how did you, like, the barriers to reentry? Um, these are things I imagine that you had a lot of conversations with people about, that it was, said that, that there is a desire, obviously, to, create a new life, but the life from before prevented that from happening. And obviously, as a survivor yourself, this is your mission to create help them create this new life. How did you see that start to make an impact with the formation of this company?
Yeah, so I started off with the mission. We wanted to create a company that was successful, but also really impactful. And so, as we decided to focus in on the roasting side of things, we actually reached out to a longtime friend and donor that I had done some work with before, Mike Glanz, and asked him if he would help us just figure out what it looked like to scale the company and to create something where we could bring impact to thousands of survivors. And so he began looking at what does it look like to create this growth model, and asked me, do you want to hire 5 or 10 survivors? And I said, I want to hire at least 1,000. And so that's when he got excited, and he's like, okay, this is something different. He had a really strong desire to prove that business could be both highly successful and highly impactful, and that the two were not mutually exclusive. I think a lot of times when we think about doing good, we kind of think, oh, that's the nonprofit world. And when we think about success, we think of that being the business world. And so what we really wanted to do was merge the two and show that we could make a huge difference through business. And so as we built the model of Talitha, we exist to do 3 things really. We provide employment opportunities to survivors. So every position that we have is opened up to our survivor network first. We have specialty coffee training through our Coffee Training Institute, which is opened up to the community and to our wholesale customers, but it's scholarshiped for survivors. And then we have the Talitha Survivor Care Network. And what we're doing through that's really our indirect impact that we're making there. And what we're doing is we're calling together the nonprofits and businesses that are all working to create reentry services and hopeful futures for survivors. And partnering together. So we're providing employment and training, and they're coming in and providing additional employment opportunities, support groups, therapy, reunification with children, legal services. And we're really making sure that all the pieces are put into place so that survivors really can re-enter successfully and that they feel empowered to gain independence and to really build their stories the way that they want to. And I think that what we didn't quite expect to happen so quickly is that through that network, we're actually able to impact thousands of lives today.
That's fantastic. I am really curious about the stability of your business as a constant on which these types of stories can unfold. There's a lot of pressure for people in general in business to stay open for the sake of their family, for their employees, the community. Even more so when you're talking about the hopes and aspirations of those who have been through exploitation. So, what were the best moves that you made, you think, all these years later, to provide stability in the business that allows you to focus on the impact that the business has without worrying that, the business is going to be okay or not okay, because you have to be competitive, and of course you've got donors and it's an organization, but your coffee is good, and the decisions you make on roasting and operations, I'm kind of curious how you've built that stable business structure to uphold that impact structure.
Yeah, I'll let Jake answer part of this as well, but I would definitely say that from the very beginning, we were really intentional with the fact that if we did not create a successful business model, we would not be able to accomplish our mission, right? And so we knew that we couldn't just be so hyper focused on making an impact immediately, that we were not focusing on the important structures in a business model that need to be put into place in order to succeed. And so I would say, really having a strong emphasis that we're not compromising on either side. Like our mission is at the forefront of everything that we do. And when we talk about growth and, becoming even more profitable and things like that, we have that focus and that driving factor of we're doing this because of the impact. However, we are also not compromising being an incredible coffee company. We have incredible coffee that's intentionally roasted and ethically sourced and all of that. And we have those structures and pillars that a business needs to have in place on purpose so that we can be successful in our mission. We also have the most incredible team. I'm constantly blown away by the skill set that we have on our team. Just people that have come from all different backgrounds and being really successful in the careers that they've built, coming to the table and doing so because they're like, we want to, really rock it in the business world, but we also want to do it with purpose.
Yeah, I think that to echo some of the points that Jenny made, the first pillar I think that really helped us is that solid team and foundation. When I met Jenny and Robert and Mike, there was no brand, there was nothing to sell. We haven't even have a facility at the time. And I had been at the company I was at for 6 years. I was the director of wholesale there. And we were successful. We'd made it through COVID, and so kind of like looking, the comparison of the two was why make the jump? Like why would I move over to do something similar? And when I heard Jenny's story and the mission, it was a no-brainer. I was like, this is something that I need to be a part of, and I can utilize my skill set and my relationships to impact lives positively. No doubt in my mind, this is what I should do. I'm just one of a few of people in leadership team that had the exact same reaction. They had built careers, they had expanded companies nationwide in beverage industries or CPG industries, and they heard the story and they wanted to be part of the movement in building Talitha. So I think that was a really important pillar for us. And then the second one is product. As much as we're talking about the cause and the mission and supporting survivors and being this profitable company, that all kind of falls to the wayside if the entry point isn't appealing, which is the product, which is coffee. So we wanted to be proud of the product. We wanted the survivors to be proud of the product that they were helping put out there. And then we wanted our customers to enjoy it. Coffee is a habitual, specific thing for everybody. And so we wanted to make sure that we met people with their habits and put out something that was quality. And when we put out the quality product, that they bought into the mission and they bought into Talitha because they had such a positive experience at the very beginning of their journey with us. So Those two key points, I think, were huge for us out the gates. And then in my world, focusing on wholesale expansion and finding businesses that wanted to also be a part of that movement. So we're very intentional with who we partner with. And I do pitch a lot of places, but the ones where we've really seen huge success is buy on being part of that mission and wanting to have a relationship in the long term.
When you, Jake, are looking at an operation like this, I mean, there's the management of the quality control, there's the looking over the business from a broad perspective as an industry professional, to manage all of the people involved and the technical excellence that goes into it. Then there's the relationship management of wholesale and communicating the vision along with the mission. How do you find what's the most successful way that you've found to satisfy the needs of wholesale accounts while at the same time making sure the message is not just lost in the practicalities of the transaction?
Yeah, that's the interesting um, piece of my job is balancing the business side with the mission. I think because Talitha as a brand is putting mission forward, it's really hard for it to get lost. It's on all of our packaging, it's on our promotionary materials. I mean, we wear it as a badge of honor at the forefront. So it's really hard for a customer to not find it. And when I pitch, large groceries or coffee shops or a hotel, restaurant, what have you, I lean into it. It is our point of differentiation. It's going to make us stand out. It is what the customer is looking for nowadays as well. They want to be intentional with their dollars. So far, we haven't had to isolate it, and honestly, probably wouldn't be the best business fit if we had to. And so working within that as the forefront and then letting the dollars and cents conversation kind of come as the secondary piece is really how we've been successful and how we've expanded our relationships.
Excellent. Yeah. You then move to this relationship with the survivors themselves who work in the business, which when you're talking about working with that community, I'm wondering what the difference is in training and resourcing that is with deference to their unique needs matched with the needs of the business to do what it does. How, does that make sense? I'm like, how do you go about that onboarding, training, and investment into those individuals successfully?
Yeah. So the first part I would say in that is that we do ongoing trainings as a company. So whole company wide trainings where we're talking about the issue of trafficking. We're talking about what does it look like uh, to work in an environment where there are survivors coming into this environment. What are the complexities of trauma? What does it look like to navigate somebody being triggered in the workplace? And how do you go after conflict? And all of these types of things. We're really working to make sure that our staff and our management are trained and equipped in what does the issue of trafficking look like and what does it look like to be a safe and supportive environment for survivors of trafficking. On the other side of that, working with the survivors on an individual basis, I'd say the very first thing that we do is that we say a survivor status of being a survivor, right? The history that comes with that. That's all need to know. So not everybody in the company knows that a survivor is a survivor. It really is up to them to share their story. And so only the people who that information is relevant to know, in order to create care plans and care management for the survivor. That is why we train everybody, right? Because if nobody knows that somebody is a survivor and then they're triggered in the workplace, we want all of our staff to know how to navigate and work with that situation. When we bring on a survivor, we do through our referral system, working with our Talitha Survivor Care Network. That way, we know that these survivors are workforce ready, that we know that they are actual survivors of trafficking, I think that's really important because we know that all the crucial pieces, having legal documents in place, having some basic skills and knowledge in what it means to work in a professional work environment, and those type of things have already been, they've begun to develop those things. And if they're not ready, sometimes we have somebody come on and they're like, I don't have an email address. I'm just now learning what Zoom is and these things. And we really make sure that we pool in the resources in order to help them be successful. The first 30 days with Talitha really is an evaluation of where is this individual at in their skills and in their workforce readiness and all of those things. That way we can make sure that we bring in additional training and support wherever they need. We also do a needs assessment. So is your housing stable? Do you have therapy and support groups? Are there any legal charges that you're facing or unaware of? Is there anything that's really hindering you from being successful in the workplace? And so uh, when we go through that assessment, then we begin to pull in our resources and connections to help bring support in those areas. Because if somebody has unstable housing, it's going to be a challenge to show up for work, right? And we do both remote and on-site positions. And so we really want to make sure those key pillars of stability are in place. And from there, we really meet them where they're at in their journey. Every survivor that we have that comes our way is coming from such a different scenario. So we have some that are have never had professional employment. We have some that have owned businesses and have college degrees. And we really want to make sure that we're being respectful of where they are in their journey. And so, after those that initial 30 days, they really go into a process of wherever they're at in their stage. So, what does it look like to have basic accountability? Showing up to work on time, doing your tasks, things like that. And then it goes on to a phase of initiative. What does it look like to take initiative in the workplace? And then going on to continue to develop leadership skills. Our goal is not that every employee that comes our way will stay with us forever.
Right.
We know that many of them will launch out of the company, and we want them to do so successfully. We do not want them to be dependent on Talitha or the Talitha Survivor Care Network. We really want them to pursue independence and not just be institutionalized, for lack of a better word, but we really want to make sure that they feel like they can pursue their dreams successfully. We do know that some of them may continue on with us for a really long time, but even if they do, we want them to be able to career path and launch up into our company. So, it's this balance of meeting them exactly where they're at in their journey, but then also focusing on the future and goal setting and where do you want to be long term.
I think to Jenny's point too is like there's so much of the employee structure, whether you're a survivor or not, that's kind of integrated to be the same. So a lot of onboarding for all employees are very similarly aligned in the process and structure that Jenny outlined. And so I think with that like seamless strategy of us putting an onboarding plan together and then just like specific to the needs of the survivor, is where we've kind of been successful in kind of bringing them in to be part of the company. And then you'd mentioned like balancing that with the business needs. We're very cognizant of the fact that like sometimes we're going to put survivors first because we want to be an employment and safe program for them. And maybe it's not the most efficient solution to the business needs because our reason and why for the organization coming together is to create a platform for survivors and an employment program for them. There's going to be times where it's probably better for us to hire survivors and put them in a place of success as opposed to making things semi more efficient by adding another machine or what have you. So a little balancing kind of depending on the scenario. But we're very aware that that sometimes might not be the best business decision, but it is the best decision for the survivor.
Right, right. So it is the best human decision, and that's very interesting. And even in just a business in a more traditional sense, I think people that have a people first mentality might, resonate with that too. They're like, well, I could, but there are I did this because of community, or I did this because of people. And
Mhm.
efficiency has its limitations. At a certain point, you have to replace efficiency with the word effectiveness. And affecting what? Also, like, what is this unto? What's the big picture? Um, and your mission is clear, and anyone listening to this has their own mission in this. And so that's a really good point there, Jake. Hey everyone, it's Chris. I am back here, and I just want to quickly tell you about our sponsors today, because they are what make this show possible, and also they produce some really awesome products I think you're going to want to know about. And the first, of course, is the Ground Control at groundcontrol.coffee. So Ground Control has been revolutionizing coffee brewing for quite a long time now worldwide. The Cyclops Brewer has been awarded many different awards for design and technological innovation that really helps unlock the flavor of coffee. But also, it is the extraction technology that creates the batch iced lattes, batch cold brew. So it's a great all-in-one machine. But their new machine is even better: 30% higher output of those concentrates, but a smaller footprint, lower MSRP, and is something that you should definitely be tuned into. Go to groundcontrol.coffee to learn more. This is something I think you should definitely consider for your bar, and look into how it can make a difference in the workflow and quality of the products you serve. Again, that's over at groundcontrol.coffee. Now, also, I want to draw your attention to our friends at Pacific Food Service. They are the ones who produce the Barista series. Now, the Barista series is ubiquitous in the coffee industry. It's one of the originals. It is the original and the best plant-based beverage that you could get for your customers, because it's designed for baristas and tested by amazing baristas around the world before the product is launched. They don't want to put something on your shelf that they are not for 100% sure it is amazing. So it stands up to the heat from steaming. It produces great texture for latte art. It keeps the balance focused on coffee in terms of flavor. So this is kind of what makes up a drink. It's like a trifecta of great stuff. So check them out at pacificfoodservice.com. They will give you samples, and just reach out to them and see for yourself. Taste and see how it makes a big difference in the beverage quality. I think you're going to love it. Again, over at pacificfoodservice.com, I think you should really be checking out the Barista series. So let's get right back to our conversation with Talitha Coffee Roasters. Jenny, I also am curious about what you had mentioned regarding launching people out, because that's the purpose, is re-entry into a more normative world. And when people leave a job, they want to show their work, that they have learned certain skills. And sometimes coffee shops aren't really great at making it obvious to people they train that, hey, here's sort of a universal skill you're learning in time management or leadership and so forth. What do you all do to create more of an obvious, like, here are the benefits that you've accrued over the time here that you can take and reference as a tool that will make you more successful outside of this company and beyond?
Yeah, so I would say the first thing is that we actually just brought on a platform for time tracking and all of that, but it also it gives us the ability to track goals
Mm.
and growth and milestones, and to, as a whole company, really call out and celebrate those things when people achieve milestones. So I think that really creating a culture of celebration is important, right? Celebrating the big and little things and drawing attention to those things. And I think that when you highlight and draw attention to the small wins, it shows that there puts an emphasis. This is important and this matters. The other thing is that we also work with partners that help with resume building. So for us, I think a lot of times companies are very focused on what am I doing, right? And how is this helping our business and our efficiency and things like that. we are very mindful of the fact that we want to see survivors succeed. We want to see them thrive, and we want them to launch out into whatever endeavors they want to pursue. So part of that is bringing in people to help with resume building and goal setting. So as they're really putting in place those goals to know where they want to head, we're also bringing in people to help with developing, like, okay, how is it that we can highlight those skills that you have achieved and developed in this company, and how can you put that on a resume? One thing I'll also say is that we're really intentional that all of our services and support that we bring are not just exclusive to the survivors that we hire. If we have a single mama that comes and she's on our staff and she's struggling in a certain area, whether it's, financial literacy or needs additional support in some way, we also will highlight support services in those areas. If one of our staff comes to us and they're like, man, I'm hearing about, these situations and these scenarios, and it's honestly, it's, I think I'm experiencing secondary trauma, we're like, there is a therapy service for you as well. And so we're making sure that we're putting those resources in place. And so goal setting, career pathing, highlighting those things, culture of celebration, all of those things are things that go across the board with Talitha and are not just exclusive to the survivors that we're hiring.
I think something else that we kind of stick to is that plan Jenny talked about a little earlier. So, where do you want to go? What would be a next step? And sometimes they don't know the answer to that question at the beginning, but as they work with us or see different opportunities, there's very much been times where we pivot the position that they originally hired for towards that level of interest, and then try and build skill sets within that role, so that when they move on to another company, they have some sort of a resume and skill set to build on. One thing to remember too is that I think, like, when you have a job and you're thinking about the next one or acquiring skills, a lot of these survivors haven't had a job on paper. So even just like that first job, that I can put something on a resume. I can
Hmm.
put these skills. Like, it sounds crazy that maybe some entry level skills, for lack of a better way to describe it, aren't as impactful for certain people that have had a few jobs, but for them, just having something to put on there is going to be massive for them getting their next opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And then, if they've identified another employment opportunity or a job that they're interested in, we help work with them to say, okay, these are the skills you have. This is how we can put stuff together. So, to Jenny's point, maybe not just putting a resume together to put a resume together, is like, no, this is the exact opportunity that's listed and out there, and I want to go for it. What do I do? And we help, put things together to make them the best candidate possible for those job openings. And then another element to this is that with the wholesale program and our customer base that we have, there are a dozen or so companies that have asked, hey, we don't know if we're equipped to take that first step like you guys are, but we do think we are to be that second step. So if there ever is an opportunity and we have a job available, we'd love to put it out there. And if a survivor is open to it and comfortable, we would love to hire them and kind of keep this going so that they can continue to be successful.
Yeah. I just quickly want to share. We just had one of our survivor staff that, you know, no real work experience when she first came to us. And she had this moment of realizing, I'm actually really enjoying some of the work that I'm doing on the technical side of things on the computer and things like that. And so we were actually able to partner with another organization that has like a tech academy. And so now, while she's working with Talitha, she's actually also going to be joining this tech academy and developing skills, because she's like, I want to head towards web design. That's what I want to do. And I had no idea that I even had a desire to do that. That would have never occurred to her. But we're able to, not only give her the tangible practice in the workplace as Talitha, but we're also able to bring in those additional educational opportunities.
Wow, that's awesome. And it's a opportunity that now that the relationship is forged, it's available to others as well who might want that same thing. So I imagine over the years that it's been a matter of one person's need turns into an opportunity for many future people that get to benefit from the way that you've developed your company with that intention to help people. And I guess my a question is, how do you um, stay in touch with the trajectory of these individuals that work for you? I mean, there's a lot of the thing about coffee shops is that we're in the midst of the work, we're doing the work, we're we're all busy, and we strive to do one-on-ones and stuff, but it's hard to always get it done. But I mean, this is a pretty central part of what you've just described, is staying up to date with the progress of an individual and caring for them. So what's the structure like to stay in tune and communicative, and have these kinds of cultivated intentional relationships?
Yeah. So just as we talked about having, the business growth model and all of that, we have the impact growth model. And so as we plan to grow as a company, we plan to grow in our impact as well. And so right now, as we're just starting, I am our impact manager. And so I am doing a lot of the care management plans, working in partnership with some of our other team members and organizations. So as we grow, we plan to replicate myself. So we'll duplicate that as we go into other marketplaces. There will be other people that are doing care management plans and all of that. And I think that what happens is that when you're working with the survivors, this natural relationship begins to develop. Um, because we are a people first company, we don't look at our employees as just another number, right? We really see the individual. And I think that's something we do well, not just with the survivors that we hire, but with all of our employees. Whenever somebody in our company is going through something, we know about it, and we are there and we're offering support and encouragement and whatever that means, and I think that that's something that we do well. We have had I think it's very open. We've created a culture that's very open. So even whether you're a survivor or not, we have employees that reach out that have moved on to other positions that continue to stay in relationship with us because they care so much about the cause and that they know that we care about people. Um, I am still in touch with every survivor that we have ever hired. And, I just had one reach out to me a few months ago and, say, I'm having a baby. And we're like, that's awesome. We're going to throw you an online baby shower, and, somebody else was reaching out and said, hey, I've gone through college and I'm about to pursue my master's. Do you know of any resources to get scholarships for survivors? And we're like, yes, we can put you in
Mm.
touch. And so it's really not this mentality of like, oh, you're not with us anymore. Good luck. It's very, very relational in our approach. And that's why as we grow, we're going to have to multiply the impact support efforts as well. But I think just being a company that's very intentional and seeing the individual, and like I said, that's something that we do not just with our survivor employees, but we really do that with all of our employees.
Yeah, I think while they're working with us, those like one-on-ones that you had mentioned can kind of hard on a coffee shop. They're pretty non-negotiable for management in the company. That especially when working with the survivor, that's something that we stay consistent on. So having goals, key results, objectives, what have you, and kind of keep on that with them. And then to Jenny's point, running parallel with that is their care plan and how are we executing that and staying on track. And then things change, life impacts things. And so making adjustments there, but it's that constant and open communication that everybody's grown accustomed to being as part of Talitha as a company. And I think with that being that first step and being honest and open is kind of creating a relationship that kind of super exceeds employment in a business or a boss, an employee. And the relationships have remained open. I smiled when Jenny had mentioned the gal that had gone to university and was exploring her master's because she was one of the first people that I had met at the company that was a survivor. I remember what she was doing and the trajectory that she was on, and was just kind of amazed sitting back and watching. And it hasn't stopped. The momentum has continued. She just continues to get after it and make her life her own. So it's pretty incredible. And I'm following her on LinkedIn of all places from somebody that maybe didn't have employment opportunities to now I'm connected with her on LinkedIn, and that's where I see her posts and her stories and the nonprofits she's working with, or random marketing work that she's taken on. It's just pretty crazy and incredible that that's like the platform with which I'm staying in touch with her.
You know, we're talking a lot about the support network, and this is stuff that you are providing as the admin, as the leadership. But I have to imagine, talking about people who have progressed, that as people reach certain milestones emotionally and in their professional development, there has to be some kind of internal leadership that just naturally takes place amongst the staff. And I wonder if you could talk to how you've seen that over the years of doing this work, where people, because of the success they've seen, take it upon themselves to be leaders from where they are to help others.
Yeah, I think that's another really exciting part of what we do, and a something that we didn't anticipate. So, when I first started doing trainings with our staff, I was actually blown away because it's really easy. I've been in the anti-trafficking world, like I said, almost 15 years. And so I'm surrounded. It is my everyday. I'm surrounded. My friend groups are all in the anti-trafficking world, and I'm in it. And so I think stepping into the business world and realizing that there were so many people that didn't know what trafficking was. I knew that, but then actually being immersed in that, and creating opportunities for people that are showing up to their everyday job to get training and awareness was actually really incredible. I think the other thing is that, um, we've seen that as we've grown and as we've acquired other companies and as we've brought on staff and that have signed up to work in coffee. They didn't know that they were going to be a part of a company with an impact. Maybe we acquired them and they're like, oh wow, this is what we do now. But I've actually seen people become really excited, right? Because you work and you show up to your job every day and you develop a skill and you're getting through life, but then all of a sudden you're doing that with purpose. Like I mentioned, we have this leadership team of people who are incredibly skilled, incredibly talented. I'm regularly blown away looking around the table. And these people have come to the table to make a difference. But then you have these other people who find themselves showing up to work, and now all of a sudden the work that I'm doing has meaning and purpose and impact behind it. And that's really incredible. We also see this with our survivor staff. When they come on to work with us, they don't feel like a charity case. And I think as a survivor, that was something that I really wanted to see instilled. When we bring on a survivor staff, they feel empowered because they don't just feel like they're receiving services, they feel like they are also a part of a movement. And that's been really incredible. They are excited to be a part of a company that is bringing hope to other survivors as well. And they take on that role and that responsibility, and they're excited by it. And I see all of our staff, whether they're bagging coffee, roasting coffee, working in administration, there's this sense of pride that they are all a part of making a difference. And just by showing up to work, they're changing the world and making it a better place.
I have two stories that I want to share. That one's mine and one's somebody else's. But I mentioned that when I came over to work with this company, it was because of the mission. It wasn't something that I was knowledgeable or knew about. It just kind of spoke to me from the heart. But since then, I have volunteered with nonprofits that we work with on a monthly basis. Actually, developed friendships with them. I've gone and hung out with these people, and continue to build, I guess, my community within the anti-trafficking space. And so you'd kind of mentioned how it's kind of affected the rest of the team, and how they've kind of stepped up as leaders. I'm not saying I'm leading at the forefront of this anti-trafficking world. I'm just now more part of that community, which I wasn't before, and have relationships and that with people that have been doing this for a long time that I never would have spoken to before in the past. And it's turned into so many different things, whether it's fundraising opportunities, events. We've co-hosted events, even sales events. I have nonprofits partner with us to kind of put out there, and they're all about it. And then also me volunteering for them at their events and stuff like that. So that's like my piece and how it's really changed me and how I think about things. And the other one is one of our wholesale partnerships is also a justice and mission driven company. It's a bakery, and they hire previously incarcerated people that have gone through programs to kind of help get them back in making that first step. One of their employees is a survivor and had approached me and talked to me and was like, I love Talitha and everything you guys are doing. And this is just so cool that I get to work with you, but now working at the bakery. It took her 6 weeks to become a lead. She's on track to become a manager. And she asked me, hey, how can I help? Like, how can I help Talitha? And I'm like, what you're doing is already amazing. But just continuing to do what you're doing and share with what we're doing. And within 3 days, she'd scheduled a meeting for me at one of the facilities that she used to work at that has a coffee shop that does vocational training. I met with their leadership team. We're going to take them on as a wholesale customer, but also take over their vocational training. And I saw her again a couple days ago, and she said, "Is it working? Is it happening?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's going on, all because of you." And she's like, "Can I have some of your cards? I'm meeting some other people as well." And I'm like, "You can have as many cards as you want. I might need to get you a card." And I didn't, I was just surprised by it all. I literally am touring and tasting with 3 nonprofits next week that I never met, that we don't have a relationship with, that help in the anti-trafficking world, all because of her. And so that's just a story that I've been fascinated by, really privileged to be a part of, and is something I guess I never thought was possible with this like cascading effect that we're having on people. And for it to be so close with a wholesale account, it's honestly hugely moving for me.
That's incredible. It's so awesome to hear the ripple effect of these decisions to start something, this coffee roasting, coffee shop, and then as a platform to give people the opportunity to not only receive the help, but to help, others as well, and to see them grow, and that there's always this mutuality, this idea that as you help others, you help yourself as well. It is such a great relief. It's seen in great relief here in these stories that you're telling, and so really encouraging. And you mentioned earlier, and I kind of want to wrap up on this question, the idea of, not every coffee shop is technically, you know, an organization that is an impact company, right? But they want to make an impact. Some of them are secondary steps for when somebody might leave Talitha and want to work at another coffee shop. Or some of these coffee shops might just simply want to support and be champions of the cause in some way. What would you say are some practical things that people can do to either be partners in the progression of where people are in their developing these skills, and um, you know also just being able to support what you're doing with their business and their energy?
Yeah, we have a whole partnership onboarding process that we do. That way, there is a bit of vetting there, and we're able to really come to the public and to our investors and everybody and say, these are people who we vouch for and we think are incredible. And so, with that, there are so many opportunities within the partnering. There are opportunities, again, to be that secondary employment, or if we don't have an opportunity at the time and somebody needs employment, we can refer them to these other businesses. If a business wants to get trained and they want to hire survivors, we can connect them with nonprofits that can help them get that training. And then, also as well as being wholesale customers. If getting your coffee from Talitha, if you're not roasting your own, you can bring on Talitha coffee as your coffee and know that you're making a difference and impacting lives in your everyday business practices.
Yeah, I think we wanted to make this simple. I get this question a lot, which makes me happy that people want to be a part and do more. But it's really simple. Supporting Talitha and the Survivor program is purchasing the coffee. When you purchase the product and you bring coffee into your shop or you bring it into your home, you're directly contributing to employment and holistic support for survivors. It's at no added cost. It's the same cost as other coffees on the market. We're just choosing to spend some of the money on employing and supporting survivors. So it's really, really, really simple. And the best way to support us would be repurchasing that coffee.
Well, that kind of leads nicely into our last question, which is where can we learn more about Talitha, buy the coffee, and support the cause?
Absolutely. So we have our wholesale accounts. You can go to talitha.com and you can look at our wholesale accounts. We also have online subscriptions. You can get Talitha right to your house as much as you want to. And yeah, that's also at talitha.com.
And if you want to be a wholesale customer or have our coffee in your shop, there's a link on our website as well for interest, and then we can have a conversation.
Excellent. Well, Jenny, Jake, this was wonderful. And I would encourage everybody to definitely check out the website, look up more information, and learn more about this awesome company doing such great work. I appreciate all the work you all do in your stories and working with survivors is very inspirational. And I appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, everyone. Well, I hope that you enjoyed that conversation. So much inspiration to be had with the mission and vision and what they're accomplishing at Talitha Coffee Roasters. If you are interested in buying their coffee, especially as the holidays come up, you want to support the cause, like Jake said here, best thing you can do to support the company, buy coffee. So this is directly benefiting those who are benefiting from Talitha and those survivors of exploitation that need your support. So go ahead and check them out at talitha.com. You'll find the link in the show notes again. That's talitha.com. And you can also find them on Instagram. If you want to check their account out, it's Talitha Coffee Roasters. So at Talitha Coffee Roasters on Instagram. And a huge thank you to Jenny and Jake for joining me on this episode of Keys to the Shop. This was such a great and encouraging thing to see coffee being put to such great use, transforming lives. You can't ask for more. And in this Thanksgiving season, we're super thankful for all that you do. Also, before we end here, one of the most beneficial things you can do for your business is make sure that the details of your cafe are taken care of, that you are tending to your coffee shop very well. And when you build, you're building with materials that make a big difference in the texture, the feel of being in your space. Using great tile and stonework in your business is just incomparable to alternatives. And our friends at Arto Brick, that is arto.com, ARTO.com, and on Instagram at Arto Brick, are your source for amazing hard surface stonework and tile work for your cafe. They have some amazing craftspeople and a long family tradition of quality work and creating spaces with that tile and stonework that are just amazing. So check out that website, arto.com, but especially reach out to them, DM at Arto Brick. Reach out to Armin, the son of the founder of this company. He is a huge fan of coffee shops, and tell him that Chris sent you from Keys to the Shop. And you're going to love this company. And I definitely love what they do. So again, check out Arto Brick for sure. Now, that is it for our show today. If you have questions or comments about the show, I always encourage you to send emails to chris@keystotheshop.com. And that's also if you want to set up some time to talk to me about working one-on-one with Keys to the Shop consulting for your business. And especially, you know, we work on projects where people are opening coffee shops, but if you've got a coffee shop where you really want to refine things and work with a coach to target some particular areas to help you, whether that's with your sales or with quality and culture, scaling responsibly, and anything else that fits in the category of operations, people, and product, then this is what I do full time. And I'd love to be able to work with you. So send an email, reach out, chris@keystotheshop.com. And with that, I say thank you again for being here. And don't forget to subscribe, share the show online where and when you can. And as always, I hope that this episode has truly given you keys to the shop.